much, and I think it's important just to put this in context, that we're not discussing the substance of the bill, or indeed the substance of the proposed amendments at this point in time. What we're discussing is a motion which would allow the committee to consider the amendments in question. That's my understanding of what the House has to decide upon. So in that sense, it is a technical question which the House needs to decide, and this microphone is on, but this one wasn't. So from a Fianna Fáil perspective, we have no difficulty in supporting the motion to allow the amendments be taken at committee stage, which is going to be taken tomorrow. That's the committee stage of the Home Building Finance Ireland Bill 2018. It would be remiss of me, Minister, not to express the serious disappointment of our party at the delay in bringing forward this legislation. We're now heading for the first anniversary of the announcement of this initiative for the provision of finance for the construction of residential developments, and it's taken this long. And I know the process of drafting legislation, taking it through all the various channels within the apparatus of government is not quick and is not straightforward, but when you consider the evidence given by the Construction Industry Federation to the Budgetary Oversight Committee yesterday, when I asked them about the environment for finance for construction, and they made it clear that while the pillar banks are lending a certain proportion of the cost of developments, perhaps up to 60%, the balance, as you well know, in many cases is coming from international funds, and it's very expensive debt. It can be 10, 12, even 14% or higher. And so this bill, and what this bill is providing for, is urgently needed. And that's why we want to see the committee report and remaining stages taken as quickly as possible. Obviously, we have to get it right, but we need that funding to be available. It's quite a modest measure overall, but it is necessary and it is important. I think it is worth remarking on the proposed amendments which give rise to this motion. They are related to the local property tax, which normally would not sit within this bill. They would sit within more relevant legislation, but I understand that Ceann Comhairle has given a ruling that the finance bill is not the appropriate place for these changes, and because these amendments were not envisaged and were not really part of the original bill as published, this motion is required to allow the committee to take them. The amendments themselves are really technical in nature, and to provide that the mortgage interest deferral relief can continue through 2019. Pending further changes to the local property tax. So that really just allows for a continuation of the existing system for the mortgage interest deferral relief, providing for the higher qualifying thresholds which would allow people to defer the LPT bill. And that deferral mechanism is a very important provision for a lot of families who are paying for a mortgage and paying high interest rates in many cases. So we support the retention of that through 2019 and in advance of whatever reforms are being brought in, being enacted. And then secondly, we're very much aware of the POA modernisation programme, which comes into effect on the 1st of January next year, and the provision whereby the LPT can be deducted from the salary by an employer, that has a legal basis through 2019 is important, and is one that we do support, because under the existing provisions, as I understand it, that's due to end at the end of this year, whereas any changes to the LPT won't be kicking in until 2020. Following the revaluation, if it takes place, as is currently envisaged in November of 2019. On the LPT, we look forward to the review. We made a submission as a party some months ago. I would ask you, Minister, to look at the proposals we made, which included increasing the qualifying income threshold by which people could avail of the deferral mechanism, because it is quite low. It's as low as €15,000 for a single person who doesn't have a mortgage. But there are a lot of people, particularly elderly people, with high fixed costs, and they may have an occupational pension, a modest one, on top of the state pension, but for whom the LPT bill is a serious burden. And I think it doesn't come as a cost to the state. If that deferral mechanism is there, the money will be collected. It's the first charge on the property, and I think the consideration should be given to increasing the deferral thresholds. We have suggested an increase in that, and similarly we have suggested that the interest charged, or the interest penalty as such, for a deferral, which is currently 4% a year. I understand it's simple interest, but given the environment we're in of very low interest rates, I don't believe that that is justified. I think you should look to reducing it. But we have suggested 2%, which in our view strikes the right balance between there being some cost associated with a deferral, but not an unnecessarily punitive one, and that's a point that we would make. So look, we'll come to those issues when the LPT is actually being reviewed. I'm not sure if the Minister has got the report yet. The Sunday newspaper certainly seem to have it, or leaks from it, in the last couple of weeks, but anyway, I'm sure he'll publish it and we can all consider it when it becomes available. And so overall, Cahir, look, on the Home Building Finance Ireland Bill itself, we look forward to debating it at committee stage, report and final stage. We will be supporting the amendments that the Minister has flagged in the course of this debate, but the purpose of this debate is to decide whether or not the committee would be allowed to consider the amendments, and on that question Fianna Fáil supports these amendments being considered by committee, and so we support the motion that's before the House tonight. Thank you.